this person that I'm talking to today, she's the Queen of Hearts. She's somebody who looks into the interest of animals, and she's been looking into feeding and rescuing animals for 16 years now. She started off by feeding 5 dogs under her house, like right there, how a lot of, and I'm sure you see a lot of your neighbors doing that. And she started off with that, and today she's looking into the medical upkeep of over 600 animals, which is about 450 dogs and about 150 cats. And huge respect. I think, we're all, in a lot of ways, we're all, very self-inclined, I think. I'm not going to talk a lot more on top of that. I would love for this to come from the horse's mouth. We have Queen in the house. And there is Queen. Hi, Queen. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you for joining. What you're doing is already such a big thing. I mean, just the fact that you go out of your way to feed, to rescue, to adopt, or to facilitate adoption. First off, I hope you're okay. Like, I hope you're safe.
I
I
am.
hope your
Yeah,
family.
just got back from feeding, so yeah, all good today.
Wow. What's the situation of this whole feeding thing right now with the
It's
coronavirus?
actually okay. It's actually okay. We've not been stopped. Like I haven't been stopped even one day. It's been smooth. Like you just basically respect the authorities and like let them know what you're doing. There's no
Yeah.
stress. Like no one has really gone out of their way and stopped us or told us don't do this. So it's I think 90% of the feeders are sorted. Like they aren't facing any trouble, which is
Oh,
good.
right. And what about for the animals? Like, I mean, I'm sure because there's a lot of people who are not feeding them these days, because of the lockdown.
It
Do you
Yeah,
think
it's
the other
becoming
dogs were going unfed? Yeah.
um, the stress is that in areas where there aren't feeders like regular feeders, the dogs were kind of dependent on the restaurants and on the offices and stuff like that. Everything being locked down, that is becoming an issue. So the dogs are kind of going out in search of food. The feeders are taking on extra animals, which is basically becoming more of a stress for feeders because the scarcity of food. The areas that you can cover are like limited. You can't really go from one end to the other. So that's an issue. So that is becoming an issue, but we're trying to figure this out.
So people who are watching, how do you think they can help with this? How can they contribute?
Start feeding near your house. Just
Yeah.
start feeding animals. Even if every building or every lane takes up the upkeep of the dogs in their area, I mean in that lane, it's going to be sorted. It's going to just become so much better because then we will not have to go out and look for animals that are not being fed. You don't have to specifically make food, something special for them. Whatever you're eating, whatever, like an extra meal,
Yeah.
one meal extra wouldn't kill anybody, and it would save like a lot of animals. So
That's
yeah,
so true.
feeding.
Yeah, guys, please go and feed the animals under your buildings. I mean, that's how it started with Queen as well. Queen, I love your name.
Yeah, I just don't like the way Queen looks. It's just very thanda, so I just
You're right.
changed it.
You're right. I think that makes you more memorable. It's not just any queen. It's not Queen McQueen. It's not any queen. It's not, the band Queen. It's QUIIEN.
Yeah, yes.
I went through your profile and the way you've been doing this. I read a little bit about your journey, and I was just mentioning to these guys that you started feeding strays. You've been feeding them for 16 years, but you started off by feeding them the 5 that were under your building. And then how did you get into this? What encouraged you to keep going on?
So we've had animals all our life. Like my whole family's had animals. We've always had dogs. Cats has just happened, but dogs has always been there.
And are these all
So
strays?
initially, no. Initially, when I was a kid, we've had like German shepherds and poms and stuff. But right
Yeah.
now, all strays. Like everybody in my house is indie. So that and
Yeah.
so it started with one day I was just in the balcony and I saw these stray dogs looking for food, and it just kind of didn't sit well because the ones at home we spoil them rotten. It's like
Oh my
give them
gosh, tell
this
them.
treat and that treat, and unka special chattar, and they have like the AC on at like 10 in the night, and they will like we all go like crazy saying that oh my god. But the guys on the road have like they don't even have access to a decent meal. Um, Being
True, yeah.
kicked, being thrown, if they go near someone and ask for food, they're being shooed, they're being screamed at. The rains, they don't have a place to hide. So it's a tough life any which way. On top of that, not having one decent meal was not something that was, I mean, it kind of didn't sit well. So I started with five, and then obviously, as you start, it's like chips, you can't stop. So it
So
just
shit, my
grew
mom
and
did that
grew and
yesterday.
it just grew and grew and grew. And then I was at till about 80 dogs. I was doing it myself, like I was personally going and feeding all 80.
And these
But
were
right
all
now
under your
it's
building, or were you going to
in
different
the area, in
locations?
the
Yeah.
area, in the area. But till about 80, it was in the area, which was like
Yeah.
walkable distance. But then it just grew, and you come to know of other places where they're not being fed. So you start that, and then it just once you start, you don't stop because then they wait for your food. So you don't stop. So now I have like four feeders. It's like a whole system. So tomorrow, God forbid, if I get hit by a bus, the feeding will go on.
God
So
forbid.
it's not it's not dependent on me. Like there's a whole system. There are feeders. They come home. The food is sorted. They take the food. They go out. I have like guys on cycles. They go feed. They
Wow.
come back. I do like this whole random checks to make sure that the animals are fed, stuff like that. So it's a whole system in place.
Wow. So is this an association you've got going, or is this all you?
No, it's just me. It's just me. It's just me. There's too much of politics with NGO. If you have an NGO, there's too much of politics that get involved. So I just like to keep it simple. Do whatever you can just on your own.
That that's that. Oh my gosh! Wow. So much respect. 80 dogs, and then oh my god, guys, like we can feed 5 dogs, right? I mean, I think that's at least once I'm back in
Yeah, like
Bombay, that's what
seriously.
I'm gonna do. Why
There's this
is why?
building in Borivali
Sorry.
that I know of where the society has made a rule that so they have two community dogs. Every day, one family feeds. So basically, your turn comes once a month.
Yeah.
And then in their society bill, they've added like $50 per
Ah,
household. So that is kind of collected and for their medical expenses. So it's not expensive. If everybody pulls in,
yeah.
it's not an expensive affair.
We
It's
go and we have dinner, and we end up spending 3,000, 4,000 bucks. You know,
exactly.
I mean, it's the little things where how it's a
Yeah,
little ways you can contribute in. And there's somebody who's asked
definitely.
here, how can people donate to you to help pay for the food? That's Brianna. Sorry, Brianna. How can they do that?
They can send money to the pet shop, and the pet shop can deliver food to me. You can DM me, and I can give you the pet shop number. It just works better like that.
I think there was another question here. Thank you that I am a good singer. Thank you. Roshni says that you're very inspiring, and I agree. So, tell me something about the current situation of strays in the country. The thing is that I always see that people have this notion that hame imported kutta chahiye. What's the attitude behind it? Why can we not go have a couple of
Anything that
adopted strays?
and any yeah, but anything that's free has no value.
Yeah.
Unless you put a price to it, people don't take it seriously. So
Yeah.
indies are technically free, right? If you adopt an indie, you're not paying for it. Also, it's not cool yet to have an indie. I mean, that kind of is changing. That whole
Yeah.
perception of people is changing. Like I
Yeah.
get completely excited if I see someone walking an indie dog. Like that's my
Yeah.
hero. But
Wow.
that is changing. A lot of people are kind of looking at indies because their immune system is great. They are born for India. So, I mean, their immunity is mind blowing. You don't like at a vet, you'll barely see an ND for
Yeah.
regular stuff. If it's a serious situation, obviously, but otherwise, you don't
Yeah.
see a lot of NDs at a vet. Their immune system is great. They are they're sturdy. I mean, and with the kind of breeding that goes on, the backyard breeding, I mean, 90% of the breeders don't know what they're doing. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of inbreeding that's happening. So the puppies are kind of, bad in a way, whatever. And so they end up at the vet too much and their life is short. It's just a mess. It's the whole thing is a mess. So I'm hoping that people will start adopting more than buying. First of all, the buying needs to stop, whether indie or breed, like the buying needs to stop. And
Yeah. Sure.
then yeah, and of course, I mean, there are like buying in the sense from backyard breeders. I mean,
Yeah.
that won't go away. But yeah, just please go to if you want to buy, go to a good breeder. That's all. Adopting, yes, please adopt. Like please adopt.
Right. So, in terms of adoption, how do you facilitate that? You look into spaying and adoption. So, Can you tell us a little bit
I
more?
have this whole list of, so if anybody wants to adopt from me, I have this whole list. They have to like fill out a questionnaire. It's not
Yeah.
just, so I ask them a lot of questions. I ask them a lot of difficult questions. Like I do, it's a life. So I need to know whether how many people in the house, everybody's okay with a dog, not okay with, dog, cat, whatever, not okay if anybody has allergies, if it's a single person, if they're married, God forbid if there's a divorce, then what happens? Because we've seen so many times where, they get a dog because they're newly married and then the
Yeah.
marriage goes south and then it's like we don't want the dog because we have too much shit going on in our life. But that doesn't work with me. So, I mean, a lot of background checks are done, house checks are done. Like I need to know
Oh
where you
yeah.
stay. Yeah,
It's like
because I mean,
adopting a baby. It's like,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. So it's a proper thing. You don't like just the second person who calls you for a dog, you just don't hand them, the dog over.
Is it just in Mumbai where you're
Oh,
staying, or?
yes, mainly in Mumbai because, of course, I know a lot of people in a lot of other states, but it's mostly in Mumbai that I'm handling and mostly in Andheri West
Anyway,
because that's where
okay.
I live. So
Yeah.
I feed a lot of Lokanwala, a lot of Veera Desai, then Goregaon, Jogeshwari, uh, Fun Republic, that sort of space.
Okay, so in these areas, if there's anybody who's willing to adopt, they can get in touch with you, right?
Adopt, they can, I mean, anybody can get in touch with me. For adoption, you can be like, say, situated anywhere. So that's not an issue. But if there's a medical emergency in this area, then yeah, then me. I mean, pretty
Yeah,
much.
and I think I read 24/7. So you're like, middle of the night, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, there's a medical emergency
I
with a
get
dog.
calls. Yeah, I get calls. I get calls at all odd hours, and like and then I mean, I keep my phone on because you don't know when who's trying to get in touch with you. So and then just that guilt of not helping just stresses me out. So yeah, my
Yeah.
phone's on.
I remember I had just finished a gig in Pune. We were doing the Weekender, and we were on our way back from Pune to Bombay by road, my friends and I. And I remember we were in a car on the highway. There's this 1 second where I saw this mound in the middle of the road,
Mm,
and I told my friends that, guys, there's something there, slow down. I think when we got a little closer, it was like in the middle of the night, like 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. ish.
yeah,
We slowed down, we went closer to it, and I saw it was an injured dog.
yeah.
And tiny, like it was tiny. So I was like, pull over. There were two guys who were standing in a building right next to the highway, and they were security, apparently, from the building. And my friend stopped the car. And there wasn't much traffic at the time, so we could actually move around a little bit. We picked up the dog and we moved it to the side. And I told my friend to take his jacket off so I could cover him. He was bleeding profusely.
Mm,
And I remember that these two security personnel whose job is to protect, whose job is to safeguard, they stood there. They're like, "Arey madam, ऐसा हमेशा होता है. आपको छोड़ देना चाहिए."
mm, yeah, I know. There's no value for life. There's like zero value for life. It's like it's sad, but that's how it is. And highways are the worst because people are. I mean, obviously they're speeding there. You can't do anything. But even regularly, the kind of cases we get, it's like people are just rash driving. And right now with the lockdown, they're just zooming. So we've had I think 2 days ago we had like back to back 3 deaths, two cats and a
Oh,
dog. Like just run over.
yeah.
And like, I mean, it's come to a point where I'm like, theek hai. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, is the dog alive or dead? If it's alive, then let me know. Then I'll do something. If the dog's dead, then it's dead. I mean, what do you do? And
What
how
we
much are you going to tell people to like drive slowly? And where are you rushing to? I mean, where are you rushing to? Can
and
you
at the
not
cost
see
of
an
what?
animal in front? Yeah, like, but that's what I'm saying. They don't care. It's just a dog and it's just a cat. So that's the problem. The problem is that. The problem is that we absolutely have no value for life.
How do you think we can make a change? How do you think, I mean, besides adoption and everything, how can we bring a change in people's mindset towards strays?
Again, making it just people realizing that that's a life that's out there. Unless you start feeding or unless you start interacting with the strays, that isn't going to change. There is going to be no change. This is not theory where I can tell you that, listen, you are supposed to feel a certain way for an animal. Unless there's interaction, that won't change. Like it will not
Interaction.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a
So
lot of people just feel it's also about, yeah, ये तो stray hai. Or
वो है, and then again there's this stupid mindset that every state has rabies. I mean, educated people
that
are
as
like,
well.
oh my God, there's a stray dog, it has rabies. I mean, hello, like what school did you go to?
What if it bites
Uh,
you?
yeah, and again, a dog will not bite just any. Like that's a human thing. Dogs don't bite
They
just.
don't. Yes.
So they don't. So, you education, like please read up, please, learn. That's all. I mean,
Do you think
animal
animal laws
interaction.
need to be stricter?
Absolutely. And I think there are a lot of people working, like I know of a lot of people that are working towards it. Animal laws have to be right now, the rate, I mean, literally the fine is 50 rupees. If you run over an animal, it's 50 rupees. How does it matter? Like $50. Like what exactly comes in $50? So it doesn't even matter. The problem is that there are, like, the laws suck. The whatever's put down is just it's not, like, you don't need it, people don't there's no implementation of it. It's just there as advice. Whatever laws we do have, we don't even have laws, so whatever is there is just like advice.
And we know
You
how
know
many people would complain. We know how many people would actually take action. It's
Absolutely.
ridiculous.
So it's just, yeah, like right now also so many feeders are facing problems. When they go to the police, it's like, yaar, hum log, madam, abhi kutte ko khana ke liye aap ye kar rahe ho. So it's the attitude of, and again, a lot of cops do help out a lot. I mean, that has changed. That has really changed in Bombay at least.
Oh,
But I know that other states are struggling with it. The again, education, basic stuff has to be taught to everybody.
yeah.
Otherwise, it's quite a difficult situation.
Yeah. So, Dino Dinesh, your neighbors need to be taught. He says, my
You need to
neighbor
be
starts to scold me when I feed a dog in my area because then there's so many that come up and then you have to
yeah.
feed everybody. I mean, if people think that it's an expensive affair, what kind of a diet can we give to these dogs without harming them?
Again, whatever you've made, yeah, whatever you've made at home. Just like if you are a non-vegetarian, then just boil some chicken and mix it with rice and give it. If you're a vegetarian, then just milk and rice maybe. They eat out of the garbage. So really, I mean, when we're saying diet, I mean anything that's not garbage is good, I guess, right? Because then otherwise they're rummaging through the garbage. So
Sure.
yeah, so anything that you have extra in your house, please go and start spaying in your area. So then it won't multiply. And then you have only those many to take care of. And once they live their life how they live them, it's done.
Yeah. And what
Um,
exactly is spaying for everybody who's watching?
so it's a neutering surgery where, you can't reproduce. Like the males are castrated and the females,
Yeah.
there's removal of the ovaries and the uterus. So then you can't conceive. So then the line ends there, which
Yeah.
is fine. I mean, a lot of people don't like it because, oh, we should let them have babies and it's nature, but dogs do not need to have babies, guys. I mean, they're absolutely okay the way they are. That's a very human thing. Dogs do
Yeah.
not need to have babies. And when they have puppies, they come under cars. So, I mean, what kind
Yeah.
of life is that anyway? So,
Sure. Yeah, I have a friend who has he's gotten his female dog spayed and she's
yeah.
and they don't go through heat as well, they don't
Yeah, they
feel.
don't.
Yeah.
Exactly. Great thing, at least for your strays. Your community dogs is a great thing. What you do with your home dog is a different situation. But the community dogs, please pay them.
Wonderful. Guys, adopt, spay your female dogs. Please talk to Queen, DM her if you'd like to contribute, if you'd like to donate to facilitate buying food for these dogs or for whatever. She's not even asking. This is just my bit, and I would totally be getting in touch with you, Queen, in this
Thanks.
regard. You can contact your local pet shops, or they can contact you and they can contact pet shops.
I can give them the pet shop numbers which are close to me so that it's easier for them to deliver right now. Because once the lockdown lifts, then you can Amazon it from wherever. But
All right.
otherwise, right now the delivery is an issue. So
Yeah.
the pet shops that are close to me would make sense. It would make sense for
That's in the
them
Andheri
to
area,
get.
Andheri West
Yeah.
area. Yeah. Awesome. You know what? Thank you so much for
Thank
doing
you.
this.
Thank you so much for
And
having
more
me.
than that, thank you for what you're doing for the community. I think it's incredible that, somebody's so worried and conscientious about the lives of animals. I think it's a rarity in our country, especially. And also considering that, stray dogs aren't everywhere. I mean, I'm basically from Canada. I am at home right now here in Vancouver, and we don't see strays. So it's not part
Right.
of our culture. Also, it's not allowed legally for us to
Right.
feed any dog or animal outside. But in India, we
Right.
see so many of them, and they're unleashed. They're out there. They're strays. And
Right.
because you have an availability of the audience, you can tend to that audience there. And that's how I see it. I mean, being a musician, I see it that way, that, they're there, you have them, you have the resources to provide for them. So, and you're not taking them all home. They're just there and you feed them a meal and,
You can't. That's another issue. A lot of people hoard. That's another issue. So
yeah.
you should do that also. Just please do whatever you can and don't like hoard. That's another issue.
Oh Jesus, yeah. हाँ, एक बंदा कितने डॉगीज को संभालेगा, and
हाँ मतलब एंड फिर वो शेल्टर मत खोलो जहाँ पे 400 है और फिर तुमको कुछ हो जाए और फिर वो 400 कुत्ते मतलब इधर उधर हो जाए ना, वो और एक स्ट्रेस है.
oh my gosh.
So don't get me started. That's another 1 hour.
Oh my God. And sorry, I totally forgot to ask about Shireen Merchant. What's your endeavor with her?
So I am working with her. She is the best canine behaviorist that we have in India. She's all over Asia actually, and so I basically do a lot of events with her. So that's what, because I have an event background. I do
You're
a
also
lot of
film
events with her.
producing.
Yes, I did that. No one's buying my film. Yes.
Oh no! Soon. Let's be optimistic. COVID should give them time to think.
I know. Yeah, so I'm doing that with Shirin right now. We've just started a lot of webinars. People are learning. So guys, check her website also out. Anything to do with dogs, she's great. Like the webinars are doing very well. There's just a lot of knowledge. If people, I joined her because, if people get educated, my life as a rescuer gets sorted. Like that's my aim with her. So once people are educated, they know what's happening. It's sorted for me.